Chapter 14, Developing Self. Section 14A, Accountability and Self-Management. 14.1. Accountability. Accountability is defined as demonstrating reliability and honesty and taking responsibility for the behaviors of self and team. Accountability is at the core of what it means to be an airman. In surveys of United States Air Force members, accountability has been consistently rated as the most important foundational competency for success in a United States Air Force career. Accountability requires leading by example, admitting mistakes, and doing the right thing even when it is unpopular or difficult. Accountable airmen embody the United States Air Force core values of integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do, and take personal responsibility even when faced with the most challenging situations. You may not always recognize the important role your actions or inaction can play in a situation. Taking personal responsibility requires understanding the significance and potential irreversibility of failing to act, recognizing your competence and ability to take the steps that are needed in a given situation, self-efficacy, acting out of a sense of personal control, autonomy. For example, imagine you are working in a nuclear facility. You find out that one of your friends, a nuclear weapons specialist, has been cheating on his exams to maintain weapons system certification. Do you report him? What if your supervisor tells you to ignore the issue? Imagine you are working as a military training instructor. You observe one of your peers pushing his trainees too hard, yelling obscenities at them when they make mistakes, and forcing them to train more hours than is authorized. Will you say something? What if your immediate leadership is pressuring your peer to work his trainees more hours in order to meet training goals? Significance. In each of these situations, try to understand the significance of the situation by thinking about the bigger picture. What if the same way you responded to your coworker in these situations was the way other people in the United States Air Force were responding in similar situations? That is, what would happen if not just one, but many MTIs pushed their trainees too hard to the point of physical injury? What would happen if not just one, but many nuclear weapons specialists didn't have sufficient expertise to repair key equipment or correctly follow emergency procedures? What does the way you would respond to these situations say about who you are as a person? Are you someone who cheats and enables cheaters? Are you someone who looks the other way when there are potential risks to security? Are you someone who fails to stand up for the most junior and vulnerable airmen among us? Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a person's belief in their ability to address a situation based on the skills they have and the circumstances they face. Recognize your own personal strengths and think about how you can bring your skills to bear on a situation. For example, you can use your communication skills, reflection, active listening, and recognition of nonverbal cues, and influence your peers by appealing to reason or shared values. You can demonstrate perseverance and persist in addressing an issue with others. You can take initiative and try to help peers see situations as opportunities to learn. Try to make use of your unique strengths and talents. Maybe you can teach your friend, the nuclear weapons specialist, better study techniques to help him learn the material needed to pass his weapons systems exams. Maybe you can show your friend, the MTI, better teaching techniques or coach him on how to exercise self-control and patience when correcting trainees. Have confidence in yourself and your abilities to address challenging situations. Autonomy. Ultimately, you are your own person. You make your own decisions on your actions or inactions. You have the freedom to choose how to respond to a situation. Even if so-called leaders or friends try to pressure you otherwise, you can act to support the greater good. 14.2. Perseverance. As airmen, we understand that excellence in all we do entails striving for continual self-improvement. But too often, the way we think about our abilities may hold us back. Psychologists distinguish two mindsets regarding ability and other personal qualities. Fixed mindset refers to the belief that a person's intelligence and other personal qualities are mostly permanent, that you are a certain kind of person and there is not much that can be done to really change that. In contrast, growth mindset refers to the belief in the capacity to fundamentally improve and significantly change the kind of person you are. Growth mindset entails a recognition that past mistakes or failures don't define who you are or who you can become. People with a fixed mindset are likely to give up easily when things get hard. They are constantly trying to prove themselves, prove their intelligence, prove their natural talent, and if they don't excel at first, may believe there is not much that can be done to change that. They tend to be overly sensitive about being wrong or making mistakes because they think their initial failures reflect a lack of ability that can't be changed. They may view exerting effort as evidence of inability. People with a growth mindset are likely to persist when learning new things and persevere on even the most difficult tasks. They put in effort and focus on improving, recognizing that challenges are needed in order to develop and grow. They don't get defensive about mistakes, failure, or negative feedback, and don't feel threatened by the success of others because they don't view an initial lack of ability as permanent. If you are someone who holds a fixed mindset, you can begin to change your perspective and become more perseverant. 1. Remind yourself of the differences between the fixed and growth mindsets every day. Remember that when people with a growth mindset set goals, they persist in the face of setbacks, embrace challenges, actively seek out difficult tasks as an opportunity to learn, value effort as the path to mastery, seek feedback and learn from criticism, find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. 2. Ask yourself, what are the opportunities for learning and growth today? Then form a plan and begin to act on it. 3. As you encounter inevitable obstacles and setbacks, form a new plan to continue learning. 4. When you succeed, don't forget to ask yourself, what do I have to do to maintain and continue the growth? 14.3. Self-control. Airmen should recognize the need to exhibit self-control as part of the United States Air Force core values of integrity first and service before self. Self-control refers to a person's ability to override or restrain their inner responses or impulses. This includes keeping emotions under control in difficult situations, handling temptations, and avoiding inappropriate behavior. For example, controlling one's urges to overeat or smoke, or restraining a tendency to yell or curse when angry. Understanding both the limitations of one's self-control and one's ability to strengthen it may be important to consistently demonstrate self-control when needed. Self-control is limited. Like a muscle, our self-control is limited and gets depleted with heavy use. Controlling strong urges is a heavy lift, and we can expend only so much effort before our efforts begin to fail. As a result, changing the situation to reduce temptation is more likely to prevent inappropriate behavior than expending effort to try to internally control urges. For example, if you love potato chips and have a tendency to overeat, it will be more effective to keep chips out of the house altogether. out of sight, out of mind, then to try to will yourself to eat just one. Some self-control may be needed to pass up the chip aisle at the grocery store, but far stronger self-control would be needed to avoid eating an open bag of chips that has been sitting in front of you for hours at home. The same principle applies to avoiding inappropriate behavior when angry or upset. Removing yourself from situations that are likely to cause you to become angry, avoiding potential triggers, will be more likely to prevent outbursts than simply exerting effort internally to try to control anger in difficult situations. Self-control can become stronger. Like a muscle, self-control can be made stronger with practice. Regularly practicing small acts of self-control interspersed with rest can strengthen self-control over time. Further, improving self-control in one domain, for example, controlling urges to overeat, has been shown to improve self-control in other domains as well. For example, controlling other impulses, such as the tendency to curse or yell when angry. Studies have found that even 2 weeks of deliberate daily practice to inhibit an urge or behavior can meaningfully improve impulse control. Set a target goal requiring self-control. For example, avoiding sweets and desserts, holding a hand grip for as long as possible despite physical discomfort. Keep a daily record of how much effort and self-control you exert. For example, declined cookie when offered one that smelled delicious, held the hand grip for X minutes. And reflect on how practicing could improve self-control. While some people naturally tend to have more self-control than others, with practice, even people with initially poor self-control can get better at exercising restraint and avoiding temptations. 14.4. Resilience. How is it that some people seem to bounce back from negative experiences so quickly, while others tend to get caught in a rut, seemingly unable to recover and move on? While external factors such as support, relationships, and spirituality all impact resilience, our resilience can also be affected by how we think about stressful situations. Positive reappraisal refers to the process of reconstruing, reinterpreting stressful events as non-threatening, meaningful, and even contributing to personal growth. This cognitive strategy can help us prepare for stressful events by embracing challenge and better cope with past events by viewing them as opportunities for learning and growth. Embracing challenge. Imagine the following situation. You receive last-minute notice that you will need to give a presentation to an audience of high-ranking members. The stakes are high, and your ability, or inability, to convince the audience will have major consequences on your career. For most people, this can be a stressful situation. But studies have shown that our ability to manage potentially stressful events like this can be affected by how we frame the situation. Specifically, when we view a situation in terms of threat, for example, focusing on task difficulty and how other people will evaluate us, our heart rate, pulse, and blood pressure increase and takes us longer to calm down afterwards. When we instead frame the same situation in terms of challenge, we tend to recover faster. Heart rate, pulse, and blood pressure return to normal more quickly after the event. For example, before going into a stressful situation, you might tell yourself, or one of your airmen, "Even though this is a difficult task, it is a challenge that can be met and overcome. I have overcome other challenges in the past, and if I try hard to do my best, I can meet this challenge as well." When framed this way in terms of challenge, people report experiencing less anxiety about the task and demonstrate faster recovery. Viewing negative events as opportunities for growth. Sometimes negative events happen to everyone. Your presentation went poorly and you received a poor performance evaluation. Or you experienced adversity outside of work. You got divorced, were in an accident, experienced the death of a family member, etc. Experts recommend reflecting on the problems and challenges we have faced. Try to make sense of the circumstances and ask yourself, is there something you could learn from this situation? Can you envision something good coming out of dealing with this problem? How could the event change your life in a positive way? How could you find benefit in this situation in the long term? Some examples of cognitive reappraisal to learn or grow from otherwise negative events. Someone who has a heart attack might view the event as a wake-up call and chance to modify their lifestyle and begin to change their diet. Someone whose spouse becomes seriously ill might view the need for caregiving as deepening their relationship and level of intimacy. Someone who has been abused might view their survival as evidence of their strength, and they might decide to dedicate their life to helping others make similar recoveries. Importantly, there is often the opportunity to learn from even more mundane, stressful events. For example, having been treated rudely by a supervisor, one might learn how to relate more effectively with one's own subordinates in the future. For example, having understanding of what type of supervisory behavior to avoid. Rather than a wishful denial of reality, cognitive reappraisal allows us to actively find meaning in adversity so that we can flexibly grow and adapt longer term.